Theme 3: State Building, Expansion, and Conflict by Darsh, Manu, and Pranav. Period 1: Foundation. Agrarian societies were the first to emerge. The use of domesticated animals for food and labor created the first civilizations. Populations increased, and patriarchies and forced labor systems developed. This gave elite men concentrated power over society. The pastoralists' mobility allowed them to come in interaction with settled populations, creating the first contact of societies. The first civilizations that were created were the Mesopotamian and Indus River Valley, and also Mesoamerican civilizations. All these civilizations grew across river valleys and rivers. Civilizations contained cities and generated complex institutions such as political bureaucracies, armies, and religious hierarchies.
Yeah, don't.
Early civilizations had surplus production, specialization of labor, and a centralized government. Early states were often led by a ruler whose source of power was believed to be divine, or had divine support who was supported by the military. Period 2: The Classical Era. As early states and empires grew in number, size, and population, they frequently competed for resources and came into conflict with one another. In quest of land, wealth, and security, some empires expanded dramatically. They built powerful military machines and administrative institutions that were capable of organizing human activities over long distances. They also created new groups of military and political elites to manage their affairs. The Roman Empire was the first to create a republican government that consisted of a senate. Required examples of administrative institutions were a centralized government and elaborate legal systems and bureaucracies. Imperial governments projected military power over large areas using a variety of techniques. For example, in Southeast Asia, the Gupta Empire used Ashoka the Great. They built fortifications, defense walls, and roads, drawing new groups of military officers and soldiers from the local populations or conquered people. The classical empires ended due to the Hellenistic era. Alexander the Great was from Macedonia, Greece. He was a military genius who led by example and never lost a battle. When he began to conquer, he reasserted Macedonian power in Greece. He set out to conquer the Persian Empire and ruled Persia by the age of 25. This in turn, he kept fighting across various countries, and he created an empire that stretched across 3 continents.
Period 3: The Post-Classical Era. The post-classical era was a time of empires. Empires were created as many empires fell. Following the collapse of empires, most of the pre-existing governments were reconstituted. Two examples of these are the Byzantine Empire and the Caliphates. The Byzantine Empire was basically a continuation of the Roman Empire into the late antiquity and the Middle Ages. The Byzantine Empire maintained and improved many aspects of Roman law, culture, and science. They also preserved the excellence of the Roman military. In some regions, new state forms began to emerge, such as feudalism. Feudalism was a system for structuring society based on the idea of holding land in exchange for service and labor. There was also a similar system of feudalism in Japan. At the top of the system were kings, then daimyos, and then samurai.
Mongol Empire.
Another empire during the post-classical era was the Empire of the Mongols. The Mongols were a group of nomadic tribes who in the 13th century united under the leadership of Genghis Khan. The Mongols created probably the largest land empire in world history. At its height, the empire spanned from Eastern Europe to China and into the Middle East. The military advantages enjoyed by the Mongols over any potential adversaries stemmed from their legendary discipline, extraordinary abilities on horseback, ability to organize and coordinate large military units, and finally their noted ferocity. Period 4: The Early Modern Era. During the early modern era, rulers used a variety of methods in order to legitimize and consolidate their power. Art such as cathedrals and monumental towers were used to legitimize their rule. They also used religious ideas such as the European notion of divine rights to legitimize their power.
You started.
During this time of the early modern era, maritime empires also began to pop up. The British empires began world exploration and conquered islands and other pieces of land which they protected with their navy. Gunpowder empires were also beginning to pop up during this time. These empires developed new weapons using gunpowder, which gave them a distinct military advantage over many empires. The Ottomans and the Mughals are examples of gunpowder empires.
Period 5. The Modern Era. European states industrialized during this period. They also expanded their existing overseas colonies and established new types of colonies and transoceanic empires. This led to increased influence of Europe around the world. The United States and Japan also participated in this process. The growth of new empires challenged the power of existing land-based empires of Eurasia. New ideas about nationalism, race, gender, freedom, class, and culture also developed and facilitated throughout the transoceanic empires. Some examples of transoceanic empire building include empire building throughout Asia and the Pacific by Europeans, Americans, and the Japanese. There was an establishment of empires in Africa by European countries and the establishment of colonies in South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and Algeria. Imperialism also led to state contraction around the world. An example of this is the emergence of Meiji Japan due to the expansion of U.S. and European influence over Tokugawa Japan. The 18th century also marked the beginning of an intense period of revolution and rebellion against existing governments and the establishment of new nation-states around the world. Enlightenment thought shaped this revolutionary acts. These rebellions sometimes resulted in the formation of a new state and stimulated development of new ideologies. Some revolutions that occurred during the period include the American Revolution, Haitian Revolution, the Mexican Revolution, and the French Revolution. Period 6. The Contemporary Era. European dominant global political order existed, which also included the United States, Russia, and Japan. Over the course of the century, peoples and states around the world challenged the order in ways that sought to redistribute power with the existing order and to restructure empires, while those peoples and states in power attempted to maintain status quo. Other people and states sought to overturn the political order itself. These challenges to the attempt to maintain the political order manifested themselves in an unprecedented level of conflict with high human casualties. Also, the older land-based Ottoman, Russian, and Qing empires collapsed due to a combination of internal and external factors. Important wars such as World War I and World War II also occurred in this era, and both left a mark on history. The cause of World War I include militarism as countries built war machines and armies in the masses. Another cause of World War I was alliances between European nations, which divided the continent into parts. On one side was the Central Powers, which was between Germany, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, and the Ottoman Empire. And on the other side were the Axis powers of the United Kingdom, France, Russia, Serbia, United States, and Japan. Once Austria declared war on Serbia, Russia got involved, which brought Austria's ally Germany in the picture, against Russia, which got France involved. To fight France, Germany had to go to Belgium, and then British had to get involved. And thus the dominoes fell. Another cause of World War I was imperialism, as European nations fought to get colonies so they can fuel their economic expansion. Another cause of World War I was nationalism, as countries wanted to assert their power and dominance over others and show that they were superior.
The effects of World War I were gruesome, and many states suffered huge military losses. Colonial participation in World II increased demand for freedom in the colonies. World War I led to the fall of the Russian imperialism, Ottoman, and Austro-German empires. The Treaty of Versailles, signed on June 28, 1919, ended World War I. The treaty forced Germany to accept guilt for the war and caused Germany to lose territory and pay reparations. It also limited Germany's military. Some causes of World War II include aggression by totalitarian powers such as Japan, Germany, and Italy as they attempted to increase their territories and sphere of influence. Also, a new form of extreme nationalism called fascism had developed, influencing citizens in their countries to support their government activities. The Treaty of Versailles had also failed in bringing peace to Europe. Another cause of World War II was the appeasement era, as Germany and Japan received new territories without effort by the West to stop them. World War II was a brutal war between the Allies and Axis powers. During the period of war, many Jews were murdered by the Nazis and the Holocaust, as they were blamed for the defeat in World War I and economic depression of Germany. World War II was ended in 1945 as the Axis powers surrendered after receiving many defeats. After World War II, there were efforts to reconstruct Germany. These efforts resulted in a democratic government in West Germany and West Berlin. They also resulted in West Germany becoming an economic power in Europe. The Cold War was a brief time of tension between the US and the Soviet Union. It lasted from about 1945 to 1991. There was no actual war. It was a competition between US and USSR to see who was better. The Soviet Union was trying to gain total power and take over all of Europe and encouraged communism. The US was against this and encouraged democracy.